On this call out, I am fixing this freezer. It has 4 of these sliding glasses, and we have this freezer, which is on the right side, and this one on our left side. It has been reported to me that this freezer is not cooling. This freezer underneath this plastic cover mounted here on the body, it has a temperature sensor that detects the temperature of the freezer and send the information to the electronic controller. So I saw that here it's written that this freezer is using a refrigerant 404, but when I came to check on the other side, it's now saying it's using refrigerant R290. It's confusing. This is where the electronic controller goes, which I don't know where it is. So they decided to use the defrost timer to control this freezer. This defrost timer is not supposed to be used here. It's for a frost-free fridge freezer. So it's gonna be temporary. I will later order the electronic controller and the sensor for this fridge and install it in place of this defrost timer. My new compressor requires refrigerant 404, and I'm gonna follow the instruction on it and charge it with 404. So how am I gonna wire this compressor? I know that my neutral will go to the relay and live to the overload protector. So I must check or trace the inputs carefully. Here I will put earth and there put neutral. Then on top I will put live. This compressor also has this information sheet. On this one I can see that there is one cap and the compressor has 2 caps. So this one will definitely not help us on telling us how to wire the components. The second one has 2 caps, so definitely this one must be the one that we must follow when wiring this compressor. It also has other diagrams like these ones that are here. This one also tells us how we should wire the fan motor for the condenser and the temperature controller that has the sensor which detects the temperature for the freezer. So since we wanna wire only the compressor, we will follow this one. And now that I know how to wire the compressor, I will then fit it in place of the old compressor. This is the pencil dryer that you see. Its output side will be connected to this pipe. This pipe, if you look carefully here, it has 2 capillary tubes. The reason is the one capillary tube is for the freezer on the near side and the other one is for the freezer on the far side. The new compressor is now in place and the piping is complete. I have vacuumed the system, waited for 15 minutes, and there was no change. We stayed at -30. So I have already charged the system up to 100 psi. The reason for this is because this freezer is big. You would have noticed that on my domestic fridges, I charge them to 50 or 60 psi, then start it and observe how it's dropping. We then add gas to keep it at 0 when running. So this freezer, I'm gonna start it and see how much it's dropping. The reason is at 100 psi, it's because it's big and it takes a lot of gas than when compared to my domestic fridges. So you can see that the gauge is dropping now. The reason is because the fridge is now plugged and the compressor is running. So it's sucking the refrigerant from the suction side or on the cooling system and compressing it on the condenser. So you can see that this compressor has dropped from 100 psi to almost at minus 15. So from gauge pressure to vacuum pressure. So we need to add gas until this compressor is at 0 or a little bit above 0 when running. We don't want it to run, I don't want it to run at vacuum pressure. So everything is running, even the fan is running there, and it's cooling the condenser because this condenser gets hot. So when I'm charging the system, I always fill this pipe because this pipe is the discharge side. I wanna feel how hot is this pipe, and this one comes out of the condenser and it goes on the inside, and then it comes back to the pencil dryer. Then on the output side of the pencil dryer, we have this pipe, which we have seen that it has two capillary tubes that splits. The other one goes to the freezer on the far side, the other one goes to the freezer on the near side. So what I'm doing now, I am adding gas since this compressor is running at vacuum pressure. I just want it to run at 0, not at vacuum pressure. So as I keep adding, as I always do on domestic fridges, I add and then close in order for me to see where we are. So once I close and I see that we are still at vacuum pressure, I open the gas again. As you can see, now I'm closing. We are still at vacuum pressure. So I'm adding again since we are still at vacuum pressure. At the same time, I'm feeling the discharge pipe from the compressor, if it is getting hot or not. So I will repeat this process again and again until I get what I want. Always remember that when you are charging a system and you are using the gauge that is built for the refrigerant that you are putting in the system, when your fridge is running, your pressure must be at 0. It doesn't matter what pressure you get when the fridge is not running, as long as it is at 0 when it is running or a little bit above 0, then you are right. But that does not apply when you are using a gauge that is not for the refrigerant that you are using. There you need to rely a lot on your condenser. You need to feel it, how hot or cold it is, a multiple times, especially when you charging the system with a light gas. I can see now that my requirement is met. When I close my cylinder, I am at 1 or 2, a little bit above 0. So I need to fill the condenser. So this pipe is now hot and it's from the compressor to the condenser. As I am filling my condenser from top to bottom, as I drop, the heat also drops. Remember that here we have a fan motor that blows to the condenser to make it warm so that it won't get too hot and overheat the compressor, then stop the compressor and end up burning the compressor. So I am happy with the heat on this condenser, or how warm is my condenser. I also want to check my compressor if it's not overheating. Remember, my gauges, they also not made for 404, but I trust them with 404. So the compressor is not overheating. So on jobs like this, I always fix the freezer or a fridge, leave it and come back tomorrow to check it. If it's fine, I then tell them to use it. But before I go, I need to check how is the inside doing. I'm quite happy because it's starting to get cold and I can feel some small frost forming. So I will stop the video and then come back to check tomorrow. Another day, another dollar. This is the day following the repair, so I came to check my freezer and it's performing 100%. So this is the reason why the shop owner trusted me. This is not my first repair for him. It's a second repair. He once had a problem with this freezer, that this one here. This one is smaller than the one I was repairing. um, I repaired this freezer before I started making YouTube videos. I was not serious with this YouTube thing when I repaired this one, so I did not take videos. So I repaired this one, then he was happy and it's been working for long now since then. So he called me for this one when this one gave trouble. Don't forget to subscribe. Bye bye.